The Atlanta Hawks. This is a team that's missed the playoffs for the past 3 seasons, so they went out and filled this team with good pieces to surround their star player in Trae Young. During the offseason, they signed Danilo Gallinari, Rajon Rondo, Kris Dunn, and Bogdan Bogdanovic. These were good moves, no doubt about that, and you can't say they didn't improve from last season. But no one cares. No one cares about if they became a better team or not. People care about whether the Atlanta Hawks can take that next step and make the playoffs. Welcome to Strictly NBA. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button to get quality NBA content, and best of all, to join this amazing basketball family. What channel has no ads on their videos? Mine, so subscribe for that too. Going into last season, some people had the Atlanta Hawks sneaking into the playoffs. Trae Young came off an amazing rookie season, coming in second place for Rookie of the Year voting. People expected him to make that next step and make the playoffs alongside his young core. Many of their young pieces didn't play up to expectations, but Trae Young and John Collins did. They finished the season with an awful record of 20 wins and 47 losses, making them the second worst team in the East by record. Imagine having an all-star putting up 30 points and 10 assists a game and still falling behind the Knicks, Pistons, and the Hornets. So why did the Hawks play so bad last year? Why did they look so much better on paper? Defense. This Hawks team averaged more points per game than the Denver Nuggets, a team that went to the Western Conference Finals that same year, but still have the 4th worst record in the NBA. They come in dead last when it comes to opponents' points per game, and this is the problem. The Atlanta Hawks create so much scoring, but that doesn't mean anything when you're giving up almost 120 points every game. This is the perfect example of defense wins championships, or in this case, defense is what is holding this Atlanta team back from the playoffs. Trae Young doesn't help with this problem at all. Statistically, Trae Young is one of the worst defenders of all time. He is a small 6'1" point guard and is seriously a major defensive liability. The Hawks' second best player, John Collins, isn't much better. They have other role players like Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish. These players are average players on both ends at best. The only decent defender I mentioned before is DeAndre Hunter. He has all the tools to be a great defender, but we haven't seen much from him. We have seen some improvement, but not enough to prove anything. He is the best defender the Hawks can throw at the opposing team's best wing players, and I don't think he can get the job done. I wouldn't feel too good putting him on players like Kawhi, Harden, Dame, Steph, Tatum. It's just not going to end well. Going into the offseason, the Atlanta Hawks had the most cap space in the whole league. I thought the management knew what problems needed to be addressed, so let's see who they got. They got Danilo Gallinari, Rajon Rondo, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Kris Dunn. Before they made these moves, I thought they were going to sign strong defensive players like Jeremy Grant, although they did acquire some good defenders like Kris Dunn and Rondo, but the two better players, the players they're going to give more minutes to, are both terrible defenders. There are 2 other players on this team we haven't mentioned yet, because they haven't played at all. These players are Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu. These are 2 big men that have all the tools to be great on the defensive end. Capella is a solid rim protector, and we've seen him prove it. He isn't great at guarding smaller players that stretch the floor, but he is still an above-average defender. The bigger mystery, Onyeka Okongwu. He is a 6'7", 6'8" big man. In college, he played the power forward, but I think he's going to play the center next season. The Hawks have John Collins and Danilo Gallinari already playing the power forward. I will explain in a sec why Gallinari will be playing the power forward position and not the small forward. But if Okongwu plays the 5, he'll be heavily undersized and may struggle on the defensive end because of that. He won't be used to the NBA level strength and talent, and being as tall as Paul George isn't going to help the problem at all. I don't mean to hate on Okongwu, because he does have very promising defensive game, and has all the tools to be like a Robert Covington on the defensive end. I just think him not being as good yet and having to guard 6 feet giants will be really hard for this rookie. Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu are huge pluses for the Hawks defensively. But the only flaw is where they're going to fit on the team. First of all, they can't play the power forward positions. John Collins and Danilo Gallinari are taking up that space. Some people would say put Gallo at the 3, and put John Collins at the 4. The problem with this is that Bogdan Bogdanovic is playing the small forward, and they can't afford to lose either of their minutes. Gallinari used to play the small forward position years ago, but when he switched to the power forward, he got noticeably better. He stretched the floor much better, and he was way more effective. The game is changing, and Gallo is going with the flow. He is a great power forward that stretches the floor because he's such a great shooter. The Atlanta Hawks are paying him more than $20 million a year and can't let him come off the bench. But wait, don't the Hawks want John Collins to be their starting power forward? He's been making great chemistry with Trae Young and wants him to start alongside him. He puts up 20 and 10 a game, and he is a great starter. He isn't a floor spacer like Danilo Gallinari is, but he works a lot better down low and in the post. He, too, is not a good defender by any means, so if they start Gallinari or Collins, the defense is going to be terrible, just like last year. But the problem doesn't end there. We're still left with 2 big men that are both capable starters. Clint Capella has proven he is a capable starter and is a solid rim protector. He is an above-average center that could work really well with Trae Young. I think he can be a great pick-and-roll player and a great lob threat. The chemistry between the two can be similar to James Harden and Capella, but obviously not up to their caliber. Onyeka Okongwu is definitely more of a mystery and may not even be a good fit at center. He was the 6th pick in this year's draft and should get the most minutes possible. This young prospect has a bright future and should be exposed to the most playing time as possible. That's how younger players get better. They can see what works and what doesn't work in real games. If Michael Porter Jr. got more minutes or was on a different team, he would play so much better. Putting him on a team where he is the focal point would maximize his talent. Just look at what happened to John Morant. So the Hawks clearly want to start Okongwu, but I don't know how they would do it. They have 4 starters to fit into 2 positions. The other positions are all filled up, so you can't simply switch their positions. But you also need to keep in mind that you need to have good defenders on the starting lineup, or the same thing will happen as last year, the 2nd worst record in the East. They did pick up great veteran talent this offseason, getting Danilo Gallinari and Rajon Rondo. They can mentor the young talent on this team. Even though Kris Dunn isn't a veteran, he alongside Rondo can help Trae Young on the defensive side of the ball. I get that he is very small, but Rajon Rondo had to go through the same thing. Kris Dunn is pretty small too. Smaller guards can still be a plus on the defensive end. Look at Chris Paul. He made the all-defensive first team 7 times. Gary Payton was also very undersized. Trae Young can learn from these players, learn the techniques, and build some more muscle to hold his ground. I don't think he'll be even close to an average defender next season, but he can be at least average within the next few years. If Trae Young doesn't get better, no matter what, they're not going to win an NBA championship. Even if he averages 35 points and 12 assists and he still has bad defense, he's not going to win. He's a great player and the sky's the limit, but that's only if he improves on all aspects of his game. Trae Young needs to prove himself soon because he can score 1,000 points for his team, but will give up 1,001. They do have some solid defenders on this team, but they aren't the best players. I think Kris Dunn was one of the best pickups in their offseason. Kris Dunn is actually a very underrated player and his defense is actually really good. He has to share the point guard position with Trae Young and Rajon Rondo, which is still a great off-ball defender. So, Lloyd Pierce, their head coach, can either maximize his best players having terrible defense or give good defenders more minutes. Don't get me wrong, the Hawks have all the pieces to be at least an average NBA team on the defensive end, but the question is, will they play enough minutes to truly make an impact? We don't know the answer to this. No one does. The Hawks will have to test to see what works and what doesn't. That is the only way they can know how truly good they can be. The next step for this Hawks team is making the playoffs. It's going to be tough for them, and there's no guarantee that they will. There are teams just like them that made moves to make the playoffs. Let's look at some of the teams that will make it. The Bucks, Nets, Heat, Celtics, 76ers, Raptors, and Pacers. That only leaves one spot for a new playoff team. The Hawks are among the 3 teams I think have a realistic chance of making the playoffs. The Hornets have Gordon Hayward, LaMelo Ball, Devontae Graham, and a great young core. I think they are a solid team that could surprise many. Another team is the Washington Wizards. This team is led by Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, and Deni Avdija with a solid core around them. Russell Westbrook is never going to be the best player on a championship team, but I do think if you have him on your team, you're going to make the playoffs. Russell Westbrook has made the playoffs every single year in his career, except for his rookie year. Bradley Beal can give you 30 points a game and will help this team a lot. Deni Avdija has a very bright future and will be key for the Wizards this season, not to mention solid players like Davis Bertans, Rui Hachimura, and Robin Lopez. I think the Wizards are the biggest team for the Hawks to beat for the last playoff spot. But the question remains, do I think the Atlanta Hawks will make the playoffs? No. No, I do not. I think the Wizards are too talented of a team, and they have the pieces that have proven themselves when it comes to making the playoffs. I think the Atlanta Hawks will finish the season just outside the playoffs as the 9th seed. The Hawks will make the playoffs soon, but I don't think this is the season for them to do so. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. This is just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Subscribe for future basketball content. This is Strictly NBA, and thank you for watching.